topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Texas. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you, for the last 16 years, we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Today's show, I got to tell you, is becoming one of our top 5 shows. What's so amazing about that is they've been with us for a little over a year, but we've got shows that have been with us for 10 or 12 years, and they have actually caught up with those shows. We so appreciate your letters, and this show, to me, is so important because if you have IRS problems, that is the worst monkey to have on your back. We're going to bring you one of the finest tax relief firms in the country who is growing like crazy. Let me introduce you to our expert, our amazing expert, Attorney Lance Drury. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning, Steve. It's always great to be here.
I love doing your show. You are just a wealth of information. People love the way you explain things. And I got to tell you, this area of expertise, boy, when you've got the IRS after you, Lance, I don't think there's anything as bad because it's a scary, scary organization that when they're after you, it is tough. But this is what you deal in, your firm. And I tell people about your firm because you are growing like wildfire.
Well, Steve, I'm in the prime of my life, so I got to keep growing the business. But we have 5 offices. We help people and represent people and businesses who owe taxes to Uncle Sam. That's all we do. We do get involved in state agencies as well, but we have offices in St. Genevieve, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, Nashville, Tennessee, San Antonio, Texas, and now Houston, Texas.
Amazing. The way you've grown your company, and there's no telling where you're going to be at by the end of next year. So tell people, there's still an amazing amount of people who do not know what a firm like yours does. Explain it to them.
Well, what we do, Steve, is we represent people that have tax problems with the Internal Revenue Service. Mostly they have tax liability, but they might have identity theft. They may be under an audit. They may have levies that we try to get lifted for them. So it's just about anything that involves the IRS. And then at the state tax level, we deal with the state agencies, and at least in Missouri, we also represent people on sales tax cases. I have a couple coming into my office at 3:00 this afternoon from an hour away. They owe $200,000 in state sales tax. And what most people don't know is if you don't pay that sales tax, it's a crime. And just because you have a corporation or an LLC, that does not preclude the state from coming after you personally. There are state statutes that say if you have a business, you have unpaid sales tax, the state can come after you personally for 100% of the unpaid sales tax. So I get people in there and they have no clue. But this is the way the state looks at it. It was never your money. You were just collecting that sales tax for the state. So they look at it like stealing. In fact, I had a case in St. Louis, at least 5 years ago now, and the guy owed $1 million.
Oh, my gosh.
The Missouri Department of Revenue kept half of it. The other half was at the state level. They had like 96 felony counts against him. So I get involved, and the bond was $150,000 cash only. I told the prosecutor, you just want your money. We'll give you $150,000 to pay on restitution on the unpaid sales tax, and let him put a recognizance bond on him so he doesn't have to pay a dime when they picked him up to take him to jail. So he never did a year in jail. We got 93 counts dismissed. They wanted 15, 20 years before I got involved. And then, he pled to 2 misdemeanors, no time, 1 felony probation. And he still wasn't happy.
Unbelievable. Oh, gosh.
And he was basically running a scam. He'd set up an LLC for a restaurant, shut it down. He set up, like 12 consecutive LLCs without knowing that he was going to be personally liable, although that's what I think what happened. But, we got
unbelievable.
Him, no damages, and, and probably didn't charge him near enough money.
You should have been kissing your feet. Unbelievable. But Lance, that's what you do. That's what your firm does. And I got to tell you, your appointment this afternoon is very lucky to be having you represent them.
Well, hopefully, though, Harmy, I'm sure if they're going to drive an hour away, that they're predisposed to hiring me as long as the price is right. And they may not know how much trouble they're actually in. And so we're going to have to sit down and have a hard discussion with them and make sure that they're going to be compliant moving forward, that they start paying that state sales tax. Because if they don't, I can't help them out. Nobody else can help them out.
Lance, one of the easiest things about doing your show is all the letters that we get in, people with questions, and it makes my job so much easier. Let's get to those questions. We're going to start off with Jessie in San Antonio. She wants to know, I guess it's a she, how does your power of attorney work?
Well, Jesse, it's fairly easy. It's not my power of attorney. It's the IRS's power of attorney. It's their form. It's what they require. That gets sent in. It takes about a month to process. I don't want to call them up because that just puts you on their radar. But because the IRS is so far behind, it's taking a minimum of 20 business days. In the old days, it took 7 to 10 days. And it's limited to talking to the IRS about the different categories of tax liability that we do on the farm. So if you're an individual, we do it comprehensively so we don't miss anything. Same way if you're a business, but it is not a general power of attorney. Jesse, I can't sell your home. I can't take your money out of the bank. None of that. That's a durable power of attorney. That's for all kinds of stuff. That's not what this power of attorney is for. And guess what? If we don't have everything on there exactly right, including your middle initial and your social security number, the IRS is not going to talk to me. If we get the name misspelled, the address wrong, IRS is not going to talk to me. So we got to get that background information. We have to have it exactly right before the IRS is going to deem me your personal representative, before them, your power of attorney.
Sharon in Sugar Land, Texas, that's right outside Houston. She said, I've just started watching your shows. What are your responsibilities during the process?
Well, our responsibilities are threefold. Number one, it's to prevent any of your property from being seized. It's to prevent any of your assets from being seized. It's to make sure your income is not garnished, your bank account isn't wiped out, 15% of your Social Security information is not taken. But if you put it in the bank account, they can take 100%. Secondly, it's to get you the best deal on the back taxes. It's all based on your ability to pay. 85 to 90% of my clients never pay back the full amount. And number three, it's to make sure that you're compliant moving forward, because it's a condition of any agreement with the IRS that in the future you're going to file on time or pay on time. And if you don't, guess what happens to the agreement?
Right.
It goes down the drain. I had a guy that had to hire me 3 times. I told him, you have to start withholding more money. He wouldn't do it. After he had to hire me 3 times, he finally did it. But here's the good news. When he did it on his own, he set up a $2,000 a month installment agreement. The first time he hired me, we got it down to $1,100 a month. The second time he hired me, we got it down to $800 a month. And the third time we got that $800 a month reinstated. So he saved a lot of money by coming to my firm. And he finally learned the hard lesson, which was you got to increase your withholding. If you're self-employed, you have to make estimated tax payments, because if you don't, when the tax becomes due, you're not going to have the money there. You will have spent it, and you're never going to be able to get an agreement with the IRS.
This next call, I guess, they texted us. I think this is the whole reason that we do a show like this, Lance. This is from Chris in Fort Worth. He says, why is the IRS not answering my calls? And this is one of the things we talk about when you try to handle this yourself instead of hiring a firm like Lance Drury.
Well, ahead. I got to tell you, the primary reason is they're understaffed. You know, people don't want them to be properly funded because they don't want them to come after them. But guess what? Then when you have a problem, you're not going to get the service that you need. So here's the deal. In the old days, we had to do the same thing. We'd be waiting for them for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. But now we have special software. We have to pay a pretty penny for it, but it's worth it because normally we can get through in 3 minutes. And I have people that come to me that have been on the phone for 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours or longer with the IRS. They can't get through. If they do get through, they get disconnected. So, you know, the problem is if you've got outstanding liability, you're in danger of getting levied in the meantime, which means they can wipe out your bank account, take 90% of your take home, 100% of your 1099s. So every time they don't know that you tried to get a hold of them and they don't care.
Right.
So this is another reason why you need professional help, because we have all the tools to make life easier for our taxpayers.
This is from Greg in Temple, Texas. He said, I love your show. I've actually turned on many of my business owner friends to your show. I know every case is different, but what is the normal time it takes for you to handle a case?
Well, now it varies. If you have a revenue officer, you know, they're going to be on you right away. They want stuff now. If they don't get it, they're going to levy you. They want stuff out of their inventory. So generally with a revenue officer, you're probably talking 6 months tops. But if you're just talking about going through the automated collection system, which is where the bulk of the cases are, you're talking 9 months to a year or longer. And part of the problem is, you know, taxpayers don't get us the information we need when we need it. First of all, you've got to have the last 6 years' tax returns prepared and filed, or Uncle Sam's not even going to talk about a settlement with you. So we wait on people forever. They pay us the big bucks. They don't get us the organizers. They don't do the returns on their own. The other thing is we send financial statements out to people after we know the returns have all been filed. And we send those out once a month, and it can be a year before they get it back to us, or they don't get us the supporting documentation that we need. but it's going to take 9 months to a year or a little longer, even if everything goes well, because everything is taking so much longer. The IRS is so screwed up. You know, if you get identity theft, that can take forever to get that resolved. You know, if you do an audit reconsideration, it could take 2 years. If you have to file an amended return, it's going to take a couple years to process because the IRS is not properly staffed. And guess what? If you have liability during that whole time, the penalties and the interest continue to accrue. So, you know, you got to get this taken care of. And I know it's an arduous process. It's a lot of work for us. It's a lot of work for you, but that's what you got to do if you want to cut a deal with Uncle Sam.
Cecil in Austin wants to know, what if the IRS garnishes my wages? Can you go in there representing me and get part of that money back?
Absolutely. But you got to work quickly. And one reason you want to work quickly is a wage garnishment is continuous until you get the levy lifted or you pay off the liability. So it's not just a one-time deal like a bank levy. It's going to go on and on. I had a guy in my St. Louis office once, and he looked like he was half dead. And when he sat down, I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I've been living in my car for more than a year because the IRS is leaving me with $200 every 2 weeks to live on." So here's the deal. Once you get that levy, you call us and we can get it lifted, but we have to prove to the satisfaction of the IRS that you don't have the ability to pay all this back. And it's pretty easy to do if they're taking 90% of your take home or wiping out your bank account. But we can get that levy lifted in whole and in part, but it's going to be a lot of work within that 21 days for us. It's going to be a lot of work for you. So you're going to have to pay a nice fee up front because, you know, I learned my lessons. I'm 72. I didn't learn my lesson to my early 50s. If I don't get paid before I get the case resolved, 90% of the time, I never got paid. So, you know, once you get, and then you got to move quick. So you're going to have to pay us a good chunk of change up front. So here's the deal. Don't wait till you get garnished. Don't ignore those letters from the IRS. The sooner you call us, the better off you're going to be, because we're going to have more time to make sure that those financial statements are accurate. We'll have more time to get you the best deal possible. So don't delay. Don't wait till you get levied. Call me right away.
You know, Lance, you make such a good point, because I read these letters and every one of them gets read, and we all give them your phone number and your contact information. But I got to tell you, there's people out there that know they owe money to the IRS. They have not gotten that letter yet, but I'm learning from you that they shouldn't wait to get that letter for the IRS. Attack it now, attack it early.
Delay is never a good tactic with the taxing authorities, unless, and we do this maybe 10, 15% of the time. You know, if it's old tax liability, the IRS does not have forever to collect the tax. So if you've got 2 years or less on the collection statute, we may tell you, we're not going to call up the IRS, because I know people that have done this on their own and they've screwed themselves out of paying $40,000, $50,000 or more because the IRS doesn't have forever to collect the tax. So we may just run out the statute on collections. We had a guy in Nashville. He owed $500,000. He paid me $50,000. And then when I got involved, he made $500,000 a year. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to have to pay everything back. We might get him penalty abatement. Well, guess what? We ran out over $200,000 of the liability before they caught up with him. So I'd say a 4-to-1 return on your investments. Yeah. A pretty good deal. So he's happy. We're trying to do penalty abatement for him more and get more, because a lot of that is penalties, a good chunk of that. So, you know, don't delay. Get with us as soon as you can, and you'll make your life a lot easier. That's what we're here for, to give you back your peace of mind.
Lance, I got to tell you, it's, and this is our last question, but it's really something that's so important. I can almost hear the fear in this guy's letter. He said, can you go to jail if you owe taxes?
Not usually, not for the most part. It very seldom happens. There's got to be fraud involved. But the thing is, you can go to jail for not filing your tax returns. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about going to jail if you don't pay your taxes, but you still got to get your problem resolved. Right. The penalties and the interest are astronomical. Steve, you and I'd be in jail if we charged what the federal government charges for penalties and interest. So get it taken care of, because the problem is they can still wipe out. I just had a guy in Nashville. He owed $1 million. He didn't want to give me a $25,000 retainer check. He had done this for years. Guess what happened 2 weeks after he refused to hire us? He's in his 50s. They took every asset he owned, including over $300,000 in his retirement. He has nothing left to live on, and he's in his 50s, all because he thought he could do this on his own. Big mistake.
Lance, we're running your phone number along this scroll, but there's so many people listening on radio, on iHeart. Tell people how they can reach your office.
Go to lancedrurylaw.com and you'll see all the phone numbers for all my different offices. We also have an 800 phone number, or maybe it's an 888. I can't keep up with all the phone numbers anymore, Steve. And, I told Steve the other day, I'm hoping in 2 years we're going to be in Miami. And if I am, Steve, we're going out. We're going to have dinner together.
Oh, yes. Yes. You just tell me what kind of food you like.
Okay.
Lance is going to be with us, not this Friday, but the following Friday. He does a Tennessee, Missouri show, his backyard. Lance, I can't thank you enough. You're so important to the show, and have a good week. We'll see you next week, my friend.
Okay, Steve, always a pleasure to see you.
Love you, bro. Okay, that's attorney Lance Drury. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.